Hi, I'm Marie Brennan, and I'm going to be reading the beginning of my story, Nine Sketches in Charcoal and Blood, from my secondary world fantasy collection, Maps to Nowhere. Nine Sketches in Charcoal and Blood. The townhouse of Richard Lowell was not one known to respectable members of society. He had entertained few guests during his life and hosted no social events, so all that was known of the house and its contents came through rumor and gossip, whispering of just enough scandal as to be fascinating. Thus, when word went out that Lowell had died, and moreover had died without a will, an unprecedented opportunity arose to investigate the matter, through suitable intermediaries, of course. The public auction was set for May the 14th, and many a wealthy man instructed his gentleman factor to attend, there to observe and perhaps to purchase any oddities which might appeal. Lot 41. A clock, bronze with ivory inlay, decorated with figures of Egyptian deities. Measures 31 hours in the day. Showing here. A man from the auction firm held up the clock, turning from side to side so that all in the drawing room might see it clearly. The piece was far from the strangest thing yet displayed that day. "May I start the bidding at 20? Thank you, sir. 20 I am bid. 25, sir. Do I have 30? 30 from the lady on my right. 40, sir. Very good. 50 from the lady. Do I have 60? 65, sir. The bidding stands at 65. Selling once, selling twice. Sold for 65. The servant from the auction house bowed to the gentleman in question and moved off to a side room, where his purchase and the price would be recorded. The gentleman and the lady who had bid against him met each other's gazes across the rows of seated figures, and the man nodded gravely to her in familiar salute. He did not look out of place in the room, with his elegant suit and his pale hair neatly smoothed, but to call her a lady was a kindness. She showed every evidence of having fallen on hard times. Her dark linen dress had been made over several years ago with a fair bit of skill, but it was now both worn and out of fashion. Her appearance was not so poor as to forbid her entry to this auction, but she did not look as if she had the wealth to bid on much, and she was so far the only woman to attend. Nevertheless, she sat with her back very straight, her dark head held proudly, as if unaware of or unconcerned with the attention of others. Neither she nor the other man bid in the next round, nor the one that followed. A statuette of a four-armed Hindu god and a collection of Roman coins in a pane of glass went to two of the gentlemen factors without much in the way of fuss. Lot 44. A casket, silver, with vegetative and angelic motifs intertwined. Possibly a reliquary with relic absent. Showing here. The bidding begins at 50. 50, madam. Do I have 60? The auctioneer blinked. It was the only sign of surprise he had exhibited all morning. 100 from the lady in the back. Thank you, madam. The two who had bid on the clock both turned in their seats to see who had bid so high. In the back of the room, a younger woman had entered during the auction of the coins and glass. Her golden hair was fashionably styled, and her blue dress was recent. She, at least, appeared to have the means to participate in this affair. She did not acknowledge the presence of either of the two now staring at her, but kept her eyes on the auctioneer, who had continued his monologue with only the briefest of pauses. The bidding stands at 100. Do I have 110? 120 from the lady on my right. 150 from the lady in the back. 160. Now 70. 180. Thank you, madam. Do I have 190? A tense silence ensued. Even the smartly dressed gentlemen factors had unbent enough to wonder at this unexpected escalation. The shabbier woman was composed, her hand moving from her lap only to signal the auctioneer and once to brush an errant strand of dark hair from her face. The lady at the back, though, had grown tense, and her eyes were now locked on the silver casket displayed at the front of the room. Her expression was not that of a woman looking at a costly object. The bidding stands at 180 from the lady on my right. Do I have 200 from the lady in back? The dark-haired woman's face showed, very briefly, an odd kind of satisfaction. She did not raise her hand again. 200 I am bid, selling once, selling twice. Sold for 200 to the lady at the back. Murmurs rippled through the audience as the dark-haired woman rose from her chair and proceeded, with quick but dignified strides, past the victor and out of the room. The main hall was a bare place, having already been stripped of the paintings that once decorated its walls. Perhaps the auction firm had feared they would disturb the gentlemen factors, the woman thought ironically. She had not seen them in the listing of items for sale, which just went to show that the firm had no idea what they were handling. The paintings were harmless. Twisted, but harmless. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. The younger woman had emerged from the drawing room. Elizabeth turned sharply at the sound of her voice, then turned away again, not speaking. I couldn't let anyone else have it. I'm sure you felt the same, but my reasons, I believe, outweigh yours. The woman gave a dry, unamused laugh. Relic absent, indeed. They're very lucky it is. Elizabeth spoke at last. This is more difficult than I thought it would be, she said softly, touching a bare spot on the wall where a picture had once hung. I hear you went to the funeral. Such as it was. I assume Nathaniel told you? Yes, he intends to be here later. Of course he does. A stiff silence followed. The younger woman was the first to break it. Do you believe he's really dead? We may as well assume so. Either he's dead or he will never return to us. I see little difference. You can't know that for sure. The time for your optimism, Claudia, is over. Another dry laugh. Do you think it optimism? I bought the reliquary to ensure no one will ever use it again. I intend to melt it down when I go home. If he should return, I would like not to be taken by surprise. Elizabeth shook her head. He won't. A knock sounded at the front door. Both women turned as a servant from the auction house opened it and took the coat and hat of the tall, thin gentleman who entered. The servant indicated the way to the drawing room, but the newcomer came instead to where the women stood. Ladies? Edward, Elizabeth said. I imagine we'll have the whole set by the end. All of us who still live, Claudia murmured. Edward raised his eyebrows. Are others here? Francis is in the drawing room, Elizabeth said, and Claudia says Nathaniel is coming. Have I missed anything of interest? The reliquary, Claudia said, and one of the clocks. I see. Edward accepted the auction listing from her and perused it. Nothing significant, then, until the flute, unless one of you wishes to bid on the astrolabe. Francis may have it if he wishes, Elizabeth said dismissively, for all the good it may do him now. I was under the impression we were here for nostalgia, not use. I am here for security, Claudia said, an edge in her voice. I've just paid handsomely for the privilege of melting the reliquary into bullion. Elizabeth's lips thinned to a tight line. We are all here for security. But I do believe I shall go back into the drawing room, Claudia said. I wish to know who is bidding on what, even the unimportant things. Also how much they are bidding. Perhaps I will learn what they're likely to bid at the end. Does it matter? Edward asked. At the end, as you so obliquely put it, we shall all be bidding every penny we can afford, and likely more besides. It will be enough, or it will not. We shall merely have to see. Claudia sniffed at his response. You have become as tedious a fatalist as Elizabeth. With a rustling swirl of blue skirts, she turned and went once more into the drawing room. The steady, genteel drone of the auctioneer's voice drifted out into the echoing emptiness of the hall as the door opened and shut. Edward watched her go, then faced Elizabeth. You amaze me. I thought to find you and Claudia at each other's throats. My youthful enthusiasm for warfare has waned, she said dryly. Is that why you let her have the reliquary? If she cannot banish her nightmares without destroying it, then by all means let her do so. Else I may have her haunting my door, full of fears of what might happen, as if the time of such matters is not 12 years gone. She even behaves as if Richard might come back. Edward picked at an imaginary bit of fluff on the sleeve of his coat. What did happen to him? I've been on the continent these last years, you see, and only recently returned, so little news reached me, other than that he had passed and the circumstances were somehow peculiar. When did he ever do anything in the ordinary way? Elizabeth glanced at the door the servant had vanished through after admitting Edward, then moved further down the hall. They found some few remains that might or might not have once been part of his body. Those were buried 3 days ago. Also found were such evidences as held little meaning for those who came upon them, but which, from what I have heard of them, indicate that he was attempting to take up the old ways again. Or had never abandoned them, Edward said, supplying the words Elizabeth had left unspoken. And now, Elizabeth said, the vultures gather to pick over the possessions he has left behind. She shook her head. I did not expect to mourn their loss so much. Another knock came at the door. Both of them watched as a pair of unfamiliar men were admitted. They hastened into the drawing room, looks of greed and guilty pleasure on their faces at the thought of owning some of the scandalous treasures of so notorious and eccentric. When the hall was silent again, Edward said, "It is the past you mourn, and not its outward trappings." As if he had not spoken, Elizabeth said, "They will open the bidding on the flute soon. We should go back in." She moved down the hall toward the drawing room, her back rigidly straight, maintaining dignity against the stripped nakedness of the walls, the tawdry spectacle of a public auction. "Elizabeth," Edward said as she reached for the handle of the drawing-room door, "why are you here? I don't believe that dress is a costume. You have little money to your name. I imagine we will all risk more than we can afford here today, but for you, the bottom of your purse will be reached much sooner. Are you simply here to see how it ends?" She turned her dark head just enough to give him the cold, diamond-hard look he remembered from before. Then she went into the drawing-room. Some things, he reflected, did not change after all, and he followed her in. So that is the start of 9 sketches in charcoal and blood, which you can find in Maps to Nowhere, which is on sale in both ebook and physical book in the Bookview Cafe bookstore.